how much do you think your
45 minutes.
Your experience of having your content get sort of consumed by political commentary, how, is that like mirroring the rest of the world? You think it's everybody? Yeah,
like everyone's doing political commentary. Yeah, because I think this was a strategy of the Democrats. They wanted everything to be political because they needed non-voters to vote. They needed regular people who don't care to vote. How do you get some 23-year-old dude who's playing video games all day to vote for Joe Biden? You scream in their face and take everything away from them and scream in their face again. And finally, be like, fine, Joe Biden, there you go. Well, leave me alone.
Right, exactly. We talked about that a few weeks ago, about the Democrats beating their people over the head, gaslighting, torturing them, basically threatening them. And the only thing they could do is just vote to make it stop. But part of that comes from critical race theory and the activists that have like produced all these people, these young kids who've taken over corporations. They're taught that politics is personal. It's all personal, and you have to make it personal. And you have to even get in people's personal spaces, and make people uncomfortable. And it's consumed everything. And then you take away. You can't go to the football games. You can't go to the basketball games. You can't go to you can't do anything. The only show in town is politics.
I think we may have crossed the breaking point, like the hard breaking point in this country. So I've talked, I frequently said, we're sitting on the precipice, or maybe we've gone over it. I think we hit the ground. I think we went over the precipice a while ago when we hit the ground. With this election, there was a hearing today at the Wyndham in Gettysburg. And you had a bunch of Republicans, and they were listening to testimony. And man, you had some legit people there. There was one guy who was a former intelligence officer who worked psychological operations, who was testifying. Trump called in, but you had a lot of people speaking. That whole thing, it's weird. It kind of freaks me out.
Well, can we just back up for a second, set the stage there? Like, how do you have a hearing in a hotel ballroom?
Because it's not official.
It's not official.
It makes me wonder. Like,
so was anybody like under oath or sworn
I don't think so.
or anything? So it was just had the feeling of a hearing, but it was really just a sophisticated or maybe presentation.
I think what they're trying to do.
I don't know. I'm asking.
I think they're trying to. There's like a large angry MAGA beast snarling. It's like, what it is? Here's a good example. It's like trying to calm down the Hulk. Like, don't worry, Hulk. Like, you're in the here's the real hearing. Come sit down. And you got all these angry MAGA people that are ready to smash. And so they're like, we're going to do a hearing. And then they show up and everyone's clapping and cheering. And it's like, bro, they're putting you in the kiddie room and blowing smoke up your ass.
Now, some people out there, well-known commentators on the right, they saw that hearing. And it really changed the way that they felt about, was there some sort of systemic fraud at play, at least in this state there? And
in terms of they don't believe it anymore? Or they believe it even more?
They believe that it's time for the Democrats to refute the allegations, that they're serious enough, they're credible enough, and that the people making the allegations are credible enough, that it demands a refutation, actually proving them to be false.
That's why I'm saying we went off the precipice a while ago and we smacked the ground.
The precipice of what? That's what I didn't understand.
Like the point of no return, where this country's divide was getting worse and worse every day. And jumping off the cliff was the point where you can't turn back. And then hitting the ground was the point where it's just done. And now we're staring at each other and people are counting heads. None of this, in my opinion, matters. We know there's evidence. The media is saying there's not evidence. It's just an absolute lie.
Did you see that poll? And I don't know who conducted it, so I'm not sure exactly if it's 100% accurate, but it seemed to suggest that they polled Biden voters after the election and asked them, were they aware of Hunter Biden? Were they aware of Operation Warp Speed? Were they aware of our energy independence under Trump, et cetera, et cetera? And they weren't.
And they said if they were, they would have voted for Trump. A large enough percentage, but it was a small percentage. It was like typically around 4 to 5% of the people said, wow, I wouldn't have voted for Biden if that was the case. And that's a huge swing for Trump.
It would have been sufficient, perhaps.
The media was doing everything in their power to help Joe Biden. Social media was doing everything in its power to help Joe Biden. Joe Biden did not campaign and got 11 million more votes than Barack Obama.
No way.
Doesn't make any sense, Tim.
So listen, you come to me and you say, dude, but people really hate Donald Trump. I say, oh, you betcha. But to beat Barack Obama without campaigning? Now, perhaps you can say,
I mean, hold on. Just Barack Obama. I went out to vote for Barack Obama, man. I was motivated.
Yep.
I waited in line. I was proud to vote for Barack Obama. I really was in 2008. I certainly was. Come to regret it, obviously.
Yeah, me too.
But it was a moment in time. It felt right. And like, there was no similar energy around Joe Biden. But maybe this does prove once and for all Hopefully not. That hate is more motivating than love or hope.
I'm not entirely convinced that widespread voter fraud is what cost Trump the election. I think we got to see evidence. I think what we have right now is the smoke alarm is going off and smoke is billowing out the windows. It's time for the firefighters to go in there because we think there's smoke. So, for me, I've seen enough. The investigations need to happen. But here's the point I'm saying where we smack the ground.
Yeah.
It's not going to matter, especially when you have these hearings. Now, it's silly that they're happening in like a Wyndham or whatever. That's like, what are they doing? They're going to do it in a couple other states, I guess. But some of these people, man, these are. When I was listening to the certification process for Michigan, some of the people who called in for public, like to say, do not certify, these were like former government officials.
Yeah.
These were like, like relatively high-ranked individuals in various organizations and government who have said, rattling off all the evidence, calling out the law, and they said, F you. Man, that one guy, his name was like Aaron Van Langeveld, was one of the most feckless and pathetic people I've ever had to listen to. It's like you had a guy say, like, under this section of the law, it says, for any reason necessary, you can call an adjournment. Like, you can adjourn the meeting. And he goes, well, I can't just make something up. And they're like, if you can't certify, which is defined as determining if something is true, then you can call for an adjournment until they sort out these errors. And he goes, well, I just don't think that's in the law anywhere. Sorry. And it was like, he said it like 10 times. And I'm like, dude, it was so obvious that he was doing everything in his power to guarantee this for Joe Biden. And you had people, like one guy called in and rattled off a ton of crazy evidence, affidavits, sworn statements, statistical anomalies, the things people had seen. And the unbalanced books, for instance, 70 whatever percent, signatures didn't match to how many votes were cast. People who had said that they didn't request absentee ballots, but absentee ballots got sent to them anyway, things like that.
Indeed.
And this guy goes, well, I don't know, I guess, whatever. I have no choice, sorry. It's like you wouldn't exist unless you had a choice. Like, why would you even be in that position? Right. You're there for a reason, to certify. Or you can say, I can't certify this because the books are unbalanced.
One explanation for that is that he was trying to advance the ball for Biden. Another explanation is that he was so soft and scared and incapable of making a principled decision or making a hard decision or taking action or anything like that.
I don't think he was trying to advance it for Biden.
Yeah.
I think he's just scared. He's a terrified, weak little man.
This is the crisis of weak men.
Yep.
So when you hear that the Wayne County Board of Canvassers, some guy goes on the Zoom call and says, your kids probably go to this school, and they immediately certify. Yeah, exactly. So this guy who is, should not be in a leadership position, he sees that and he immediately says, I have to, I have no choice. And the reason he was saying that was because he doesn't want Republicans getting mad at him. But guess what? Time and time again, I'll tell you this. It's because Republicans will do nothing. Conservatives, nothing.
You mean in terms of like fighting aggressively or?
So Antifa breaks the rules and gets away with it.
Yep.
100%. And the only thing comparable is probably the Proud Boys. And they typically are defensive. They'll show up and do a rally and then Antifa attacks them and then they'll fight back. But Antifa is aggressive and they get away with it. It's overt terrorism. It's low tier terror. It's not like they're showing up with AKs and mowing down, kids or anything like that. But they're saying
just picking off Trump supporters one by one on the streets of Portland.
It has happened. But here's the thing that you want to stay under the radar. You can't do high profile attacks like that, like Reinhold did. So what you do is you just put on a mask and you club people. And then eventually people get scared. But cancel culture was the first start. That was them saying comply or else. We will destroy you. And I'll tell you one of the biggest problems. I would say it would seem that there's probably 4 or 5% of Trump supporters who are cowards. They're smart enough to know they need to vote for him, but they were too terrified of what the left would do to him to speak out and evangelize on his behalf. So I said this about all these celebrities who I know support Trump but refuse to speak up because they're like, oh, lose my job. And I'm like, you will wake up one day with a Joe Biden presidency and everything you hold dear being stripped away, and you'll say, I wish I had spoken up sooner because I had a lot of influence and I could have used it.
Bro, you are preaching to the choir on this one, my friend. I have arrows in my back from being out front. People have been free riding on my willingness to go out there personally and stump for Trump and advocate for him and say he's the best choice that we had as far back as 2016. Obviously, Democrats are deplorable, the whole transition, everything.
They destroyed your career.
They did.
Tried hurting your family.
They did. They hurt me. They got me fired and doxxed and slandered and all kinds of horrible things. And yet, I persist and I look around at people who I know feel the same way, but don't speak up. And I'm like, I'm out here. I'm a lightning rod.
I'll say this from now on. If anyone whenever I'm ever going to bring up not being scared and speaking up, I'm just going to say, be like Jack Murphy, because people always say, Tim, you don't have a family. You don't know what it's like. It's like, all right, well then ask Jack. Because you stuck your neck out. You were speaking out. They came for your family, and you pushed twice as hard after the fact.
Indeed.
You weaponized it.
I had to. This energy came at me. It was negative energy. It was this terrorism, info terror, like character assassination, etc. And they came after me, and I jujitsu'd around into something positive. There was, it was an opportunity. I mean, when you see the world in terms of opportunity and energy, and you see it all coming at you, and you have a chance to turn it around into something good, I seized on it. And plus, living well is the best revenge. There's no question about that.
Thanks for checking out this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. We do the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. So come back to check us out when we go live. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell, and we are also available on all podcast platforms for free if you want to listen to us there. Thanks for hanging out, and we will see you all next time.